Thank you so much. That was scary. Okay, traumatized now. So we're going to have a panel right now, so we're going to have some questions and discussions and try to create a dialogue. We're going to also have David Miles come up here from Accuvant. I'm going to just let him introduce himself and what he does. So let's just get started with this conversation.
Is this on? So my name is David Miles. I'm with Accuvant Labs, and what we do is we focus on advanced research and development, discovering software vulnerabilities and exploitation of modern systems. So so that's I guess what I bring to the panel here today.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Come on, encourage the guy. Encourage him.
All right. You know, we were talking about protocols and Tor and, you know, I2P and things like that, and Darknet. Now, in your opinion, do you guys see these peer-to-peer networks going away anytime soon, or what's your for the next 10, 20 years? How would that look like, in your opinion?
I think, as was mentioned here before, they're not going to go away. They may change. They may change location. They may change the way they look, but they're not going away. We've seen a large impact on these networks in terms of usage. Every time that there's something goes public around how people are monitored and how people are analyzed, be it different whistleblowers or be it different researchers showing that anything you do in the net, that there is no privacy. I hope that everybody in the crowd, knows that any website, including any e-commerce website, just takes so much information about you. And if I go online right now and try to buy a computer, and if Paul tries to go online and buy a computer, we're going to get a different price because he's been searching for one, so they know that he knows the price, and I haven't been searching for one, so they'll give me the higher quote. So people are starting to realize that, and that's why I think this type of networks I don't see them going away at any point.
Yeah, I would agree. I think there's always going to be the ability to try to obtain anonymity on the internet. I think what will change is the internet itself is, increasingly requiring people to identify themselves, right, in order to be able to do business on the internet. If you've ever connected to Tor and then went to try to go to your bank account or tried to buy online services, where you exit back out of the Tor network onto the internet, exit nodes are mapped. Everyone knows where they are, and so you end up being it's increasingly difficult to do business on the internet when you try to be anonymous. So I think it's a bit of a trade-off, but I think there'll always be, there'll always be the ability to attempt to be anonymous, but I think it'll be increasingly difficult.
To make a long story short, it will never get away. Tor and I2P are old news. There are already new, actually, anonymity networks that are available. Some of them are really publicly kept, and some of them is being referred as the XYENet. I don't know why they chose this name, but it's Tor and I2P are old news. Okay, this is something that's been used for years. It's nothing new. Everyone uses it. Everyone installs Tor. You see, even Muhammad Abdullah Baraka? What's Alamak, I'm sorry. So it's going to get much smarter. It's going to get much more encrypted, much unavailable to anyone else. One of the most sophisticated thing that I've seen, when you can see the Tor network, it's about the communication that runs at the application layer already, which means that information is encrypted, but it's still passing between a hop and a hop. One of the most interesting, actually, private network that I've seen is that there's a small tunneling engine running on the nodes and just forwarding one packet to one side of the internet and the other one through the other side of the internet, much earlier before it gets to the encryption layer. So it's going to get more sophisticated and much smarter and never going to get away.
Okay. You know, we hear out there people talking about, you know, mass surveillance and, you know, agencies and governments, you know, having access to networks and things like that. So just, you know, it's my observation. I see people using more and more tools like Tor and other tools to communicate. You know, I remember when people used to believe that Skype was a safe way to communicate. That's not the case anymore. So what are some of the tools that you guys would recommend for cybersecurity professionals or business professionals that are concerned about privacy, they're concerned about you know, exchanging messages, you know, surfing the web, you know, they travel and they have sensitive information. You know, what would you recommend to pretty much try to hide some of your activities, even though they don't have to be bad things, but you know what I mean?
Well, I can kind of categorize it in different layers, depending on who your adversary is. So if I want to hide the websites at home from my wife, that's an easy adversary. I just use Chrome Incognito. Educational websites. What are you gonna?
That you browse the web with your left hand.
We're going to have a talk about those content. So you can, I mean, there are various tools depending on the adversary. So it starts from very basic things like that, and then you have add-ons to Chrome like Disconnect, and there's also HTTP headers, which actually are not respected, I know, by a lot of websites that's supposed not to spill information about you. And then you take it to the next level. There are VPNs. Different actually things that you showed during your presentation, VPNs, Tors, and other forms of communication, and including encryption. The one point that, and maybe you guys can comment about that, the one point is that might get difficult is at what point does this hurt or damage the user experience so much where they say, you know what, the hell with this, I'm not going to use it, it's too much of a headache, you know, having so many layers, just as you have it in any security solution, say from the banking world where I come from, where you want to have multiple layers of security, but at the same time you don't want to hurt the customer experience. So, actually, maybe you guys can comment about that.
I mean, sure. I think, I mean, I would agree. Chrome is, you know, from a security standpoint, one of the better browsers to use, and using incognito is, you know, if you want to hide, you know, on your local system is a good idea. I think, you know, even though Tor is old news, it's you know, it's still probably one of the better anonymity networks out there. The problem with Tor, though, is if you use it, it can be very, very slow, right? It's not and I think the behavior of most people, and even in light of all the surveillance on the internet, probably hasn't changed at all, right? You know, using Tor, if you try to use Tor, if you know the more users out there, I mean, the slower that it is. And so I think from a user experience standpoint, I think that probably causes people, you know, not even to worry about it. But I mean, that would be my point of view on Tor.
One of the things that we have to understand, Tor doesn't mean secure in any way. Maybe you're anonymous, but you're not secure extremely in any way. So doesn't matter if you use Chrome or Tor, or it doesn't matter. Don't run it on your own operating system. Run a virtual machine, use, I don't know, whatever virtual machine solution you'd like, and run the browser there. If you'd like it to be over Tor, great. If you'd like it to be on I2TP or whatever you're interested, it's great. So we have to keep in mind the difference between secured and anonymous. So being anonymous, yes, you can use the formal and the common, mostly used anonymous browsing solution available, but keep in mind that you're not secured in any way. Your browser will be still vulnerable to any exploitation or any BIF framework that will try to take advantage of your browsing experience. And so even if you use Tor and you've been infected by a malware, it's not going to use Tor. Okay, so keep this in mind as well. And the other thing that specifically you asked about messaging. I'm still a PGP geek. Okay, I use my own implementation of PGP just for messaging with friends. We actually did our own instant messenger using a PGP implementation, and this is still the hardest we've came through till now. And if you want to use video, trust me, Tor doesn't do good porn. It's not moving. Come on, people were interested in that. Don't be embarrassed.
Okay. Thank
I
you.
saw he just marked Tor from his paper, not used Tor.
All right, so
One more thing is not the last point, but the one before that. I didn't show this, but I mean, these extremist groups also have their own implementation of Instant Messenger, and they have their own versions. They don't use Instant Messenger or Google Talk or anything
Or
like
Skype,
that.
yeah.
Yeah, or Skype or anything like that. They have their own versions of these messengers that are distributed within their communities and are encrypted and so on. So they don't use the publicly available tools because they know that they're being heavily monitored.
Yeah, and just to add too, I mean, Tor is like any other software is potentially vulnerable to exploitation, right? I mean, there was just a vulnerability patched recently within the Onion browser package, I guess back at the end of 2013. So it was a JavaScript vulnerability. So I mean, from a security standpoint, Tor is definitely, just like anything else, can be exploited, just like your web browser as well. And I think which is important. And from a security standpoint as well, though, everyone should use email encryption. I think PGP, the user experience isn't as great either for that, but SMIME is easy, right? And it surprises me how little email communication is encrypted, at that level. And I think that's from a business standpoint, I think is probably a must-have tool from securing your email.
okay, we can actually take some questions right now from the audience. Yes, sir.
Remark, and I refer to the remark by Shai about the price discrimination of the websites. Once the 99% of the people will understand that anonymity gives you better prices, then it is not going to be used by extremists like pedophiles on one side and terrorists or whistleblowers, but by most of the people. So this is an issue that has to be considered. So it's the economy that is going to change it. These people will understand.
I'm not sure that I agree with you, and I will explain how come. Because once the customization and the identification of a user, it's not just about getting better prices. It's about providing you a better everything. If your search results will be more available for what you need, and if the specific searches that you will look for will lead you to a better destination, your identification is a must. Maybe without tagging your name, but tagging your experience and tagging your activities. So this is a really interesting trade-off, because even if a Tor or any free anonymous network will be available, you will still prefer your identification. Because the geo places, when you use Google in Israel, you're not really interested to see result in Britain when you're looking for shoes. So prices won't do anything for you. So I agree. I pay with Itai's credit card already. Yeah, so.
Well, this is all the time we have today for this panel. Thank you so much, and thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you all. We'll just for one announcement, we'll go to lunch and come back at 14 hours. We have 10 seats available for tonight's get-together, hosted by our friend Daniel Yammer here, Nation E. And so if any one of you want to register, please, at the girls downstairs, register.